Today's reflection is on the agony of Jesus in the garden. I seldom hear the word agony being used in conversation these days, but I do hear the word agonize fairly frequently. And it's usually in the context of when somebody agonizes over something. Maybe the person is going to make a decision and he or she can't quite make up his or her mind. Maybe the person has two equally good options, two equally viable options, and so the person feels conflicted and torn inside. For some people, there's an added pressure to them to not make a mistake, to get it right the first time, because in their mind, there will be dire consequences if they get it wrong. And so they agonize over it. We see and sense a similar movement in the life of Jesus during his agony in the garden. What is he agonizing about? Well, he's agonizing as to whether or not to fully embrace God's will for him, the plan of God for the salvation of the world. You see, Jesus is a very obedient son to the Father, and he wants to do what the Father desires and wills. But maybe he has a different idea as to how to accomplish God's plan for the world. One, perhaps, that doesn't involve um, having him be betrayed, arrested, mocked, scourged, crucified. And so we find him um, praying and wrestling with the Father and agonizing as to how to embrace the Father's will for him. He eventually comes to a place of freedom when we hear him say, "Father, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but your will." And in here, we sense that he's beginning to give his consent to the Father. He's beginning to embrace the Father's desire as his own desire. You and I have had a similar experience of agonizing over embracing God's desire for us. Um, You see, if we've discerned that what God wants of us or where God is inviting us will lead us to success or money, wealth, power, if it makes us look good, all knowing, impressive, then it's an easy ask. We will immediately say yes to God. It's a different story when we've discerned that where God is leading us is to a stance of humility, maybe even humiliation or poverty or rejection or illness. And when that is the case, our natural tendency is to initially say no. We feel tortured because on the one hand, we want to be obedient children of God, but we can't just quite fully embrace the Father's desire for us. And so we're tentative. We feel a little doubtful inside. And when that is the case, know that that's okay. Um, we can bring that to prayer, just like Jesus did. He brought it to prayer. We can lay before our loving God exactly what we're feeling inside in terms of our aversion to um, the pain and the suffering that might be involved in saying yes to Him. The thing is, God the Father will be patient with each one of us. God will not intimidate us or threaten us into submission, because that will not be respecting the free will that he's given to us. God wants to say, God wants us to give our consent in freedom. it is hard to say yes to something that will involve pain and suffering. But we do know that God's invitation for us to go through the way of the cross doesn't just end at the foot of the cross. Our stories don't end there. Um, the Lord will necessarily lead us to the resurrection. And that is a very hopeful and promising thing for us. I was wondering too, when Jesus said, when he finally consented to the Father's will for him, I was thinking about whether he immediately felt a sense of calmness or peace inside. Because after all, he's said yes to the Father. My guess is that maybe not. Maybe it took a little while before he felt the lightness of his choice. Maybe all the while he was feeling the heaviness still in his heart. And so the consolation was not in uh, the immediate feeling of peace inside, but maybe the consolation is in um, the greater trust and confidence that he had with um, the Father, that in saying yes to the Father, that good will come about. Good will come about from this saying yes to Him. And so I leave you with these two questions to reflect on as you meditate, contemplate on this scene of Jesus um, in the garden, agonizing over um, what's in store for him, agonizing over whether to say yes to the Father. And the first one is this: how easy is it for you to embrace God's desire as your own? How easy is it for you to embrace God's desire as your own? And the second one is this: what will help you be spiritually free to take up your cross as disciples of Christ? What will help you be spiritually free to take up your own cross as a disciple of Christ? And so I leave you with those two questions to reflect, to pray with, um, and I wish you a very blessed, holy Tuesday. God bless you all.